Snap,
Scary,
Cheryl.
scary.
Cheryl.
Cheryl,
I
brutal.
was
That's a disclaimer, right?
That's a warm
Just for
welcome,
others.
Cheryl. That's really a warm welcome.
Is it Gemzy or Gemzy?
Yeah, it's Gemzy. I'm allegedly using those things I said.
You know, Jamzi, actually, I was reading an article from Tech News in Africa room, how Nigerians actually are working globally and getting paid with crypto because they are trying to hedge their risk of really high inflation. So even though the government is really having its own digital currency, but then people are really bartering it and using cryptocurrency. You don't have to answer that, but but I was reading an article, something that was saying just because you mentioned something about cryptocurrency in Nigeria.
He could be
Yeah.
using it. He could be using it as a manager of a DAO or an employee of a company. Therefore, no problems.
But I would love to know, Gemzi or Joey, as you prefer, how do you think it's going to play out with this e-naira currency from Nigeria?
Um, my personal opinion is, the Nigerian people and Nigerian government are usually the government, the demographic of the people who are in government is they are like 2 generations ahead of the actual population. Africa has a very young population, so they tend to make decisions that are very very archaic. They try to resist technology a lot. They try to push back on so many things, and this causes friction. But the truth is, you can't fight technology. It's just a matter of time here. We're playing a time game here. So eventually, the people are going to get what they want. That's just it, plain and simple.
Hmm.
Good morning.
Good
Can I
morning.
quickly weigh in on that?
Yeah, I thought that's why you had your hand up. So welcome.
Yeah. My name is Toby and I'm Nigerian. So in Nigeria, we have two set of people. We have the Niger and we have the Nigeria. The Nigerians are the politicians, the corporate people, people who have made their money from bank, who the traditional banks. And then basically we have the Nigerians, which are the young people who are techies, who are the millennials, and the Gen Zs. So basically, um, our Nigerian people, which are the politicians and the big men, do not understand why a startup will start in 5 years and be valued like 3 banks in Nigeria. How a fintech? How? The question is how? How do you have a Flutter Wave be valued as much as a Stanbic Bank, Sterling Bank, and a Wema Bank all together?
Right.
How?
Yeah.
So because they cannot understand the technology, how these valuations happen and how you are able to contribute to the economy, and they do not understand the interest they stand to gain because the former structure always have the politicians plug into it. They practically own almost half of Nigeria. And because fintech or technology or AI or any startup as you may have it do not have like politicians plugged into it, they do not have interest in it. That means that you have to lobby. I believe that the ecosystem is going to get more better with a lot of engagement happening, with a lot of lobbying with government. Now with cryptocurrency, I feel that the crypto itself is like a war against the bank, and it is normal for them to fight back. But with time, as young people get into government, do the necessary things like strategize. I see a lot of big tech people, people like Inya Aboyeji and co, trying to like get to know with government, parley with government, push people into government, especially the Senate. I feel that we will get more comfortable It's just a matter of teething time. I
Okay.
still say it.
Well, that could.
There was a unicorn that announced yesterday,
Yeah.
Team App, and more unicorns are coming from Africa. It's just a matter of time. We are beating every horse that comes. So get ready for Africa.
Yeah, we've been watching the fintech investment is getting very serious, particularly around Nigeria. Yeah, and I can see why the traditional older generation are confused about how fast these new tech companies are growing, right? And they might even think that there's some
Exactly, you are
corruption going
correct.
on or something. Yeah, when they see, yeah, like you said, how is it possible that this new tech startup, is bigger than the traditional banks? So, but I think you're right. I think it is a matter of time, and hopefully it goes faster than the generational change because that could take many years to play out. Um, but we will find out. We watch these headlines every day, and it's really good to hear you guys on stage telling us, straight from Nigeria how it looks from, from your perspective there. So hang tight because
Um,
hopefully there will be more African news. And yes, Messi.
I was just gonna add that when you are talking about the Nigerian fintech space taking off, we were predicting last night that there could be two of them coming up to be a unicorn. Actually, if I have to take my what is it, psychic ability, but there was another article, the Nigerian startup Team App is being gonna be the next unicorn because they are trying to raise 150 million with a valuation of over $1 billion, and they have done really quite well so far, doing like 3 billion transaction values monthly, and with close to 150 agents all over in their platform, and millions of users. So yeah, that the article thinks that they're gonna get the money because they are trying to expand into Egypt, Ghana, and Cameroon, and yeah, it's really being watched to be the next unicorn, and it's out of Nigeria again. So yeah, you're right, the fintech space in Nigeria is really flourishing.
Okay, so let's get into the headlines as we always do, and welcome back and a happy Thursday, everybody. We're almost to the end of the week here. That's the sound, and this is the first headline. It's from Apple, that Apple announces self-service repair, a program starting next year that will publish repair manuals directly from Apple to let customers buy parts and tools just like your local repair shop and more. And because the Apple, this is a real interesting change because Apple used to seemingly go out of their way to make the screws that hold the iPhone together that you needed very unique little screwdrivers to with those little endings on them. They're very proprietary endings. They're not flathead. They're not traditional little screwdriver endings. They're these really peculiar hex endings. And to highlight the fact that they didn't want you opening those devices. I mean, that was proof positive. That they made that abundantly clear over and over and over the years. And now they're doing a full 180. You might even say a 360. And they're obviously not doing this by choice, but I think they're trying to get ahead of the regulations that would come down on them anyways. Because I imagine if they didn't do this, that the U.S., for example, likely would come down very strong on this issue. That you need to be, and by doing it this way, maybe they at least they do it on their own terms to some extent. Anyone else with a take on the Apple self-service repair?
Well, I think this way they could license the screwdriver components. I think before they tried to use various IP protections.
No! I just had a vision of the $49 iScrewdriver and the toolkit that you're going to need. They just productize their own repairs. It says they're going to offer repair manuals. They didn't say whether or not they're going to charge for them. They very well might, and let alone the tools that you
Limited
need.
edition repair
Huh?
manual, hardcover,
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
$99.
When you buy, exactly, you buy the phone. Would you like to buy the repair manual? It's just $99. Yeah. And
My thought of this might be like a guarantee, though. Sometimes you offer a guarantee to people, knowing that most people are never going to claim it, like a lifetime guarantee, and you know
right,
that 10 years later, no one's going to remember.
right.
It may be a situation that you say, "Yep, sure, you can fix it yourself," and maybe they don't put a lot of hurdles. I've changed the battery on a couple of iPhones, old phones, just for shits and giggles. Not really worth the investment of time, but it isn't too difficult. But I suspect a lot of people will just go, "I can't be bothered. I'll just go to the shop or whatever." But at least Apple has said, they've positioned and said, "Hey, we're the good guys. We're going to let you do it." So I'd be interested to see how many people actually do it.
Meanwhile,
If they
in
make it
China,
easy for people, if they make it easy for people to one day be able to do it themselves, then obviously they're gonna, kick out all those other third party um, companies or other people going to service centers, which is and getting fake products and fake pieces.
Yeah, the key is getting good quality parts. Yeah.
And just as a side of humor, meanwhile in China, people assemble 1,000 iPhones a day, and here we are, sometimes complaining about the difficulty of assembling one of these or servicing one of them. And it's not trivial. It's like taking apart a Swiss watch nowadays. It's very delicate work.
Yes, the in China they sell it as a kit. They provide, for example, a battery. They provide those screwdriver and those anything needed in that, and they provide a link for you to see how to do it yourself. So it's just for maybe 10 years. This is how it's done here. So, but just like Eric said that they can provide a screwdriver as a 49.99. That's another way.
So the next article, also about Apple, from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman. They seem to be a one tech journalist show over there at Bloomberg with Mark Gurman, and it's about Cher Scarlett, who we read about a month ago as one of the leaders of the Apple II movement, hashtag Apple II, which was some disgruntled Apple employees trying to do a signature collection, kind of like the Me Too movement, but the Apple II movement, and knowingly, insinuating, knowing all of the negativity that's associated with the Me Too hashtag, and attaching it to their employer. Not always a smart move. And now it says Cher Scarlett. When we last read about her, I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, that she was on some kind of paid leave, like sick leave. And she says, she's not going to quit because the money's too good, and she's not stupid. She's going to keep taking the money, right? Do you remember this one? Everyone's waking up today. But the headline today is that somebody, Ken? No? Okay. The headline today is that Cher Scarlett is leaving Apple and will withdraw her complaint after reaching a settlement. Oh, really? Apple settled with our friend Cher Scarlett. Let's have a looky-loo what happened here. Cher Scarlett, an engineer, spurred the Apple II movement. The matter was settled privately, employees' lawyers say. Cher Scarlett at Apple, an Apple engineer who created a protest movement within the company over pay transparency and other workplace issues, is leaving the iPhone maker, Apple, after reaching a settlement. Scarlett wouldn't provide details about the settlement, but her lawyer said she is requesting a withdrawal of a complaint she filed with the National Labor Relations Board. In a September 1st filing with the NLRB, Scarlett alleged that Apple Human Resources had interfered with efforts by employees to gather wage data, and that management had engaged in coercive and suppressive activity that has enabled abuse and harassment of workers that were organizing. Quote, the matter was settled privately and the request for withdrawal is pending before the board. Scarlett's lawyer, Alec Felstener, told Bloomberg News, we hope the crucial organizing work at Apple will continue. Well, well, then they wouldn't really have any motive to settle with you if that if what you're pushing for continues to move forward, then why settle with you? Just you can jump on that train of people trying to do that. Scarlett said her departure from Apple was voluntary and that her last day is Friday. Other Apple workers who publicly raised concerns about working conditions, including Ashley Jovic and Janek Parrish, were fired after speaking out and have filed their own recent labor board complaints. Apple said both of those former employees were terminated for sharing private information. Apple declined to comment about Scarlett's departure. The company has said previously it does not comment on specific cases out of respect for the privacy of any individuals involved. For several months, Scarlett has been a leader in the movement inside Apple via Slack channels and other forms of social media that came to be known as Apple II. It spurred many staffers to speak out online about conditions, both publicly and anonymously. The protest was a rarity inside a company known for keeping employees quiet about their work. Chief Executive Officer Tim Cook expressed frustration in September memo about employees leaking information. His email followed media reports about a company-wide internal meeting at which management fielded questions about pay equity and Texas's anti-abortion law. We got a hot mic on stage there. Toby, got your mic, brother. All right, so his email in a filing with the NLRB, Jovic alleged that Tim Cook email and various Apple employee handbook policies violated National Labor Relations Act, which protects U.S. workers' rights to communicate with one another and engage in collective action about workplace issues.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty wild. Actually, here in Canada, some of the universities had this issue with the female professors and researchers getting paid maybe sometimes as much as 60% of what the male counterparts were making. So now the policy is everybody's salaries are listed on the website. So either they're going to go that way or they're going to try to retain this and keep it as siloed as possible. And I think that's what the settlement means. It means that they found the right price to get her to not want to pursue this magically all of a sudden. Wow, how convenient.
I'm just reading all of the tweets. A lot of people tweeting. Well, actually, not a lot of people. It's like 3 people doing a lot of tweets about this. One of them being Cher Scarlett herself. And she says, Friday is my last day at Apple. I'm taking a bit of time to decide where I'd like to go next and will announce when I've made that decision, which means she didn't get enough to retire from Apple. She's already thinking of where to go next. But Cher, you made yourself essentially unemployable in Silicon Valley, where you live.
It's like that guy in Europe who wanted the right to be forgotten. So everybody in the world knows who that guy is, except the people in Europe who just have to use a VPN to find out who he is.
She was previously at Blizzard Entertainment, interestingly, which is part of Activision. Okay. So the next one is.
So Tyler, actually, I thought when you were going to go with the next Apple story was, which I actually thought was a more important story than this one, was there was this is a lawsuit going on, with the Epic and everything. They're trying to figure out the damages, and apparently there was a story that some Nobel Prize winner, who's testifying, or he's an expert witness, trying to determine what the damages are, came up with some wild number, and he got slapped down by a judge, and the judge basically said, your numbers are just pulled out of the air, um, and the thing I tweeted that out to you guys, and the thing I didn't understand about that case, is they're claiming that the damages are not just going to go to the app developers like Epic, that apparently anyone who's used an app, from the App Store, like any of us, any individual, will be part of this class, and supposedly is entitled to some money. I don't exactly understand why. So, but that was the story, and I could just we the top part of it says the judge handling a lawsuit over alleged price gouging at Apple's App Store criticized a Nobel Prize winning economist analysis backing a claim by consumers for billions of dollars in damages, saying the expert witness gave us no math and pulls numbers out of the air, which is pretty interesting to say that about a Nobel Prize winner. And then there's the rest of the article. But anyway, I thought you were going to go to that one because I thought that was a big. I thought it was a big story. So what do
Mm-hmm.
I know?
No, it's we don't pick the stories in the first hour. They're preset, and we just read through them
Oh, where do you get them from?
within a very proprietary, secret place.
Oh, okay.
Cue
But
Twilight Zone music.
Cheryl knows, and if you can tell if you listen to me and Cheryl talk, she's like, "Oh, there's another new one on the site," and I'm like, "Yep, okay, yeah, I see it, okay." And then we don't pick these, so that might be
Not so
coming up
secret. Not
very
so
soon.
secret.
Not so secret. Oh, Greg knows where it is. So, so by the way, that article is probably in the list that we're going to go through, and then we get into the tweets. But let's see if it is in the list here. The third story that, in terms of like internet tweet activity and whatnot, is from CNBC. It says that the U.S. Department of Justice, known as the DOJ, will sell $56 million worth of cryptocurrency it seized as part of the BitConnect fraud case. Victims can apply to be reimbursed if you were a victim of the BitConnect fraud case. Next up, Instagram says it is shutting down its standalone mobile messaging app called Threads by December 31st because they're trying to merge it with the Facebook Messenger, essentially. I'll be honest, I didn't even know Instagram had a standalone messaging app. But it is shutting down at the end of the year anyways. And next up, by the way, that would have been kind of handy to have now that I think about it. I didn't know it existed. Next up, Apple releases iOS 15.1.1 to solve an issue with dropped calls on iPhone 12 and 13 models. So if you've been having some unusual dropped calls, you'll need to update to the latest operating system in your iPhone. And Google releases a Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro update, slightly improving the fingerprint scanner, which some have called slow to unlock and unreliable. And then next is the Washington Post article, and there's two Washington Post articles. And we read one of them yesterday, which was a group of shareholders. Oh, no, that's the new one. Okay, so check this out. Things are getting hot over at Activision Blizzard now. One says, both written by the same journalist, Shannon Liao. And the first one that we read yesterday was over 100 Activision employees staged a walkout on Tuesday. This is 1% of employees, just to give you context. But this is the second walkout in 4 months. And one of the demands of the walkout is that Bobby Kotick, as I'm told it's pronounced, I was pronouncing it Kotick, but it's so that Bobby Kotick, that he stepped down. And the question, I'm curious how sincere they are about that demand. Meaning, are they refusing to come back to work until he steps down? I don't think so. That would mean they are going to have a walkout every day for a week. We'll find out very soon, but something tells me they're going to be back to work tomorrow, whether or not he steps down. So I'm going to question the integrity of their demand that he stepped down there. The next one is, as I mentioned, also from Cheryl Liao, that a group of shareholders owning less than 1% of Activision calls for CEO Bobby Kotick and two of its longest-serving board members to resign. And again, I question the veracity, authenticity, integrity of that claim as well. And I can imagine if you're Bobby, you might say, well, if you want to leave, you're welcome to leave. And if you're a shareholder, it's less than 1% of shares, the stock price will go down 1%. Let the door hit you on the ass on the way out.
Tyler, there's more. I mean, that's not where a lot of maybe the pressure's going to come. That there was a bigger story relating to Activision that came out. And again,
Okay.
I don't know how you get your stories, but I'm telling you, this is absolutely bigger than that. Is that Sony, who's the single biggest customer for Activision in 2020, up from number three because in 2019 and 2018, I guess Google and Apple supposedly were bigger customers, according to an article I read. But Sony, which is the biggest customer because of PlayStation, they have made a comment on this situation, which is so unusual for a company that's your partner, business partner, to
Mm-hmm.
comment on this type of situation. But there
Mm-hmm.
was a big article that I tweeted out that Sony has made a statement and that they have called into question Activision's response. And I could. You want me to get you that article? Or you want to go in
Sure.
some order? You want
That
me to?
that could be that could be related to a morality clause, either in the shareholder agreement or any sort of business agreement. There could be something like you promise to behave in good faith and some of these principles because these are principles important for our brand. So I suspect that's probably some legalese gymnastics that Sony's engaging in.
On a B2B, I've never really seen anything like that. It is pretty unusual, for a business partner. I mean, for something like on
Friendly
something like
fire.
this. What?
What did they say?
I'm gonna get you the story right now. Let me.
Ken, I pinned one on top. Is this the one from Wall
It
Street
must be.
Journal?
I can't look. I'm trying to
Okay,
find it.
Sony's
Yes, Wall Street Journal.
PlayStation and
Yes,
others
yeah,
pressure
yeah. Sony's
Activision
PlayStation
Blizzard
and
to
others
better
pressure
address sexual
Activision Blizzard.
misconduct.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
Yep,
here it
here's
is.
the one.
Wall
yeah.
Street Journal. I want to see who the. It's from Sarah Needleman. It says Sony's PlayStation and others pressure Activision Blizzard to better address sexual misconduct issues. Head of Sony Gaming Council unit told employees at Sony, the company, asked that Sony asked video game giant Activision how it will address article about CEO's handling of sexual misconduct accusations. Well, they're accusations, so they might say, "What do you mean? How are we going to handle it? That's fucking bullshit." So then what? If this is the point we were talking about yesterday when we met, unless you have strong evidence, you can't be going around saying, "Oh, I heard you're cheating on your wife. I heard your husband's cheating on you. What are you going to do about it?" And when the wife doesn't, it's like unless there's really strong evidence, you have to. The action comes after the evidence. So
It's kind of
Sony Group
yes.
PlayStation unit has asked Activision Blizzard to explain how it plans to address the Wall Street Journal article. What? Why does Activision need to, why are you curious how they're going to respond to an article?
Well, I think the implication here is that they're a family brand, and a lot of kids play PlayStation. This is obviously going to make the rounds.
Bro,
So I think they're
bro,
being
bro, bro. Let
kind of
me
open.
hold on to that. Hold that phone for a second. Sony is in Japan. Sony is a Japanese company. I got, I got, I got a little news for you. As much as I am have endless affection for Japan, the big executives at big Japanese companies very often have mistresses. Let me put it that way. That's just incredibly
Yeah.
common. Uh, One might say that's sexual misconduct, like on a systemic scale.
Yeah, there are a lot of problems there. That's true.
So
So,
Tyler, I actually wondered about that, by the way. So let me ask you this. Maybe
so
this didn't
I'm
come.
here. I'm Activision. I'm asking you, Sony. What are you going to do about all your executives fucking up dozens of women every
No,
week?
no, no, but Tyler, I actually thought about the fact that it may not have been Sony, the parent company, that raised this issue. It may have just been Sony, USA. Sony has operations. I think they even have a building in Santa Monica, which, by the way, was where Activision used to be located before they moved to Irvine. So I was thinking that maybe it's just Sony's Americas division, the U.S. division, that raised the issue. Not it didn't go all the way back to Japan. I don't know. I mean, you would think something like this would have to go back to Japan because it's a big deal,
Right.
because of PlayStation.
Yeah, but it's interesting. We want to know how you're going to respond to this issue. as if that's going to change something. If how we respond is going to have some kind of impact on Sony.
Well, here's
PlayStation.
another direct quote.
Oh no, no,
So, to
it says right
express our
here.
deep concern, we do not believe their statements of response properly address the situation.
Well, like
Yes.
what? They have evidence then? That implies that you have evidence.
Now we're cooking.
We do not. You're right. Here's the article. And by the way, it seems like it's American because the guy, it says PlayStation boss Jim Ryan disclosed.
See my point? Yeah,
Yeah,
Sony America. Yeah.
PlayStation boss Jim Ryan disclosed the request in a letter to employees Wednesday that was reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. In it, he said Sony reached out to Activision. Wait a minute. Why is Sony telling its employees that we reached out to Activision to ask them how they're going to respond? Huh? What is that about? Why are you talking to your employees that you reached out to Activision to ask them how they're going to respond to the Wall Street Journal?
Well, I would posit this in the world that we live in for the last few years, maybe just even the last two, where the employees now think they run the company. I mean, we've seen it at Google and other places. Maybe the Sony U.S. employees were stirring about the situation of with Activision, and they raised issues internally and about like,
I gotta.
we going to be doing anything? And maybe Sony management decided to lower the internal heat from some of their own employees, and just said, okay, maybe we'll reach out to Activision or we'll make a public statement. I mean, these are like the types of things that would never have happened even a few years ago. I
Yeah,
just think we're, apparently in a different world. Like I
I
said,
gotta.
this whole
I, ha-
thing is so unusual.
I have a different theory. I think Sony knows they've got a lot of internal rape allegations and sexual misconduct allegations, and they want to make sure their employees understand how much deep shit they can get into really, really fast if they don't put a fast lid on that quickly. Kind of a scared straight tactic. Like, look what's going on over at Activision. This could spill over to the whole game industry because we know. Because, by the way, Activision, as we now know, owns dozens of video game studios. So does Sony. And my point is, what is the likelihood that the bad behavior was only happening at the Activision, the video game companies that Activision purchased and not the ones that Sony purchased? My point is, like, statistically, Sony would be just as likely to have game studios that, what are the odds that Activision's only buying the game companies that have sexual harassment going on, and Sony's never managed to fall victim to buying a game studio that has that going on? If this is an issue of the culture of gaming at these game studios, then Sony knows it's in a very similar situation, which would explain why they're very curious how Activision's going to respond to the Wall Street Journal. So it said in the email that Sony sent to its employees, it said that Sony reached out to Activision to express our deep concern. Yeah, you probably are, because you probably know you have the same situation going on within Sony. About the art, with their deep concern about the article, and that, quote, we do not believe their statements of response properly address the situation.
It almost sounds like a caricature of what a Japanese corporation would say if you saw it through the lens of South Park.
Right, but it's like, first, it implies that you have some kind of evidence that something bad happened, because and why you have deep concern, and we don't believe that the statements of response properly address the situation. So you're aware of the situation. You have a bigger understanding of the situation. I'm still sticking with the idea that Sony is struggling with this internally, and that's why they are expressing deep concern. The journal article, which was published on Tuesday, said Activision CEO Bobby Kotick didn't inform the company's board of directors about some reports of sexual misconduct by male employees towards female employees, including allegations of rape. Activision issued a statement Tuesday saying The article paints a misleading view of Activision Blizzard and our CEO, and that it ignores important changes underway to make this the industry's most welcoming and inclusive workplace. The company's board released a statement the same day saying it remains committed to the goal of making Activision Blizzard the most welcoming and inclusive company in the industry, and is confident in Bobby Kotick's leadership, commitment, and ability to achieve these goals. Well, there's an interesting caveat in their statement where they remain committed to the goal of making Activision Blizzard the most welcoming and inclusive company in the industry, meaning maybe maybe that industry is really, really terrible. That's one of the
Yeah,
main claims.
we're
So
no
if
worse than anybody else.
exactly, which is, oh, we're going to be the most inclusive in the industry, which means we're still incredibly terrible because, oh my God, do you know what's going on over at Sony? And maybe that's why Sony's all of a sudden got very riled up, because Activision might tell the Wall Street Journal, hey, you think we got shit going on over here? You have no fucking idea what's going on over at Sony's game studios. Why
Yeah,
don't
a
you
few
go?
years ago there was a scandal with the Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. If anyone remembers that story, that was awful. There used to be E3 booth babes and all sorts of awful things happened, harassment, assaults, and eventually the person ended up being prosecuted and fired and so on. So it's definitely a pattern that is present not only there, but I think everywhere. What happens is they take hostage the dream of making games, and they use that to shield all sorts of abuse. It's just so sinister.
I'm tempted to make a formal prediction that we're going to see more of the end. If I was a journalist, I would start. I'm wondering. I'm imagining the journalists from the Wall Street Journal um, calling up, emailing all of the employees they can get, through LinkedIn to Sony's game studios and asking them, all the female employees, if they've experienced any kind of sexual harassment at work. And I would bet everything I have that they're going to get some replies to the affirmative. So we will see.
And what's also interesting, I don't know if it's still out there, but remember when? And I don't think it was just Sony. I don't know if it was just Sony Entertainment. It may have been more of Sony. Do you remember when all those Sony emails got hacked? I mean, it was really at the hack was focused on the motion picture division, but I actually think that the entire whatever they were able to hack, because I think it came from North Korea, they anything with a Sony extension was hacked and somebody put it on the internet. I mean, that was several years ago. It would be interesting if that thing was still available, because it was a little bit searchable, that database. If somebody was able to go into that database and now look at like old Sony emails that relate to this issue, assuming, if I recall, maybe that it was all of Sony, not just Sony Pictures, that got hacked. But I don't remember anymore.
Is Spotify expands podcast subscriptions globally. So there's now podcasters on Spotify can charge subscriptions, and some people are doing so. And there's now 20 different price points for you as a podcaster to choose from, starting as low as 50 cents. Is that 50 cents per month or 50 cents per podcast? All the way up to $150, and a way for creators to download subscribers' contact info. Oh my God, I gotta break out the applause button already? Jesus Christ, Spotify, you did it. Big. That's huge. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a game changer in social media, because Facebook does not give, if you're a company, remember when Facebook was trying to get every company to build a Facebook page and promote their Facebook profiles? You don't get the contact info for your customers or followers, nor do I get them in Clubhouse, nor do you get them in Twitter. You don't get their emails or phone numbers. and this is the default. This is the standard around social media, is if you're on a platform and you're growing on a platform, you're not getting the direct contact to your users because they're afraid you'll leave and take those contacts with you. And Spotify is allowing podcasters to get the email addresses of their listeners. That's very unusual in the social space and should be very loudly applauded, because that would be a fantastic change for creators in the creator economy. So it says just a few months after launching support for podcast subscriptions in the US, Spotify today is making the service available to creators in global markets. The company says that the service, which allows creators to mark episodes as subscriber-only content, will now become available in 33 new markets around the world. When podcast subscriptions publicly launched in the US, Spotify had introduced a couple of key changes to how the service worked. Before, creators had only been able to choose from one of 3 price points, but Spotify heard from creators they wanted more pricing flexibility, so it revamped pricing with the introduction of 20 price point options for creators, starting as low as $49 and increasing to as much as $150. And based on that, I assume it's per episode.
Is it $49 or 49 cents?
49 cents, thank you. 49 cents to $150. The company also launched a feature that would allow creators to download a list of their subscribers' contact information so they could further develop their direct relationship with their audience. Again, I'm doing a double clap there. That is fantastic. As the service rolls out globally, Spotify isn't introducing any new features. It says instead the expansion is just about bringing podcast subscriptions to more people. Spotify's podcast subscription platform isn't the only one on the market. Apple offers its version of subscriptions, but takes a 30% cut of creator revenue, which drops to 15% in year 2, similar to other subscription apps. Spotify, meanwhile, is hoping to grow its service by waiving commissions for the first 2 years. When the free period ends after 2 years, it then plans to take a much lower commission of just 5%. Spotify's, and more importantly, they give you the email addresses. So if you want to move over to Apple, you can bring your audience with you. The opposite is not true. If you build up your audience on Apple and try and move it to Spotify, you're going to have that friction, so to speak. So, kudos to Spotify for that one. The next one is that a marketing management software startup called Braze jumps 44% in its NASDAQ debut after raising $500 million in its IPO at an $8.4 billion valuation. And Paytm, the Indian mega fintech company that did their massive IPO, falls 20% in its trading debut in India, giving it a market valuation of $15 billion. You go, India, after raising $2.5 billion in its IPO. So India's now got a $15 billion fintech. That's fantastic. TikTok releases commissioned research into, well, call me skeptical. Who did the research? TikTok, let's see here. They've releases commissioned research into harmful challenges and hoaxes, which often go viral on TikTok, and adds a safety center section about such content. TikTok updates the safety center resources following research on harmful challenges. TikTok has developed a bad reputation for hosting dangerous viral challenges on its app. Really? Why didn't anyone tell me about these? Which at their worst have led to serious injury or death. Oh, just at their worst. I mean, it could get worse, right? Worse than death, right? And how many people are dying on Facebook exactly? How many people are dying on Instagram? I'll go ahead and wait while you find the deaths on Instagram. As in the case of the blackout challenge that prompted Italian regulators to take action against the social network this year to remove underage users. More recently, the app has made headlines for challenges that have encouraged students to hit teachers and destroy school property. As the potential threat of further regulation looms, TikTok today is sharing the results of its research into viral challenges and hoaxes, as well as how it's taking action to date. TikTok has often tried to downplay its involvement in viral challenges. Yes, it has tried to downplay its involvement, when in fact it's creating them. They are a unique social app. They decide what you see, not based on your friends like Facebook. They send everything to you as they wish to do. Nothing goes viral in there without them expressly wanting it to go viral in there. In October, TikTok denied that the Slap a Teacher challenge was a TikTok trend. For example, after a child died from trying the Blackout challenge, TikTok released a statement that said the company found no evidence of any challenge involving blackouts on its platform. So they just routinely deny what's going on because they're the ones propagating it and promoting it on their platform. So, and indeed, they denied the Slap a Teacher, even though if you Google, teacher, hit teacher, slap teacher, TikTok challenge, you will find dozens and dozens and dozens of schools in local media, local news, where the local news station, Bob Swan at 7 p.m. Does a report at the local high school. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of schools all around America with the school. Just Google this shit, and click the news link, and you will see every small publication from Poughkeepsie to Kalamazoo. Every small town across America, the local news media in that local town is writing about it, about the shitstorm that's going on at these schools. And not once will you find anything from the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and the big corporate mainstream media. What's going on? And even now, with this article we're reading right here, when I look back, normally, you know how when I say there's a story and I say it's being widely covered and here's all the other places covering it? This story I'm reading is from TechCrunch about TikTok, and this all these dangerous challenges. Guess who's covering it? There's really one notable one, and it's the same one who's the only other one who consistently covers it, which is the BBC. And we've already explained why BBC is the only ones who's covering this, and it's very notable. There's an absolute silence why the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and the Washington Post are not covering all of this crazy, egregious fucking deaths on TikTok.
TikTok is the new killer app.
Oh my God. Is that Nigerian humor there? So, the BBC is covering this stuff. When you do Google, hit a teacher, destroy school bathrooms, you do see BBC articles very regularly. They come up repeatedly. And you see all the local news, like, the little paper in all of these little towns all over America. They're all covering it. So where are you, Wall Street Journal? Where are you, New York Times, in your absolute jihad, in your screaming while you're ripping your hair out about how Facebook is harming the kids, and yet the kids are dying on TikTok? The kids aren't even on Facebook. Where are you? And it's very simple. This seemed like a mystery. It's not a mystery at all. It's actually very, very simple. The big mainstream media competes for ad dollars, for advertisers with Facebook. And Facebook's winning. And so they want to see Facebook die. And they see TikTok as their ally in killing Facebook. But the BBC is unique because they don't compete for ad dollars. And that's why the BBC is the only one out there writing it. It all adds up perfectly. So essentially, to summarize, the New York Times is unwilling to cover the deaths happening on TikTok because TikTok is their ally in beating Facebook. Because Facebook's taking their ad dollars. Where's the journalist writing that story? Unbelievable. So the next one is AirWallex, spelled like Air Wallet, but with an X instead of a T, a payments platform for international purchases, raises $100 million at a $5.5 billion valuation. NVIDIA beats Q3 revenue, as I told you, all the chip companies would do, and 50% year over year growth. Gaming revenue up 42% year over year. Data center revenue up 55% year over year. They're just booming, totally booming.
Those are massive growth rates for a
Yeah,
company that large, by the
huge,
way.
huge, huge. As I told you they would do. Grammarly, which helps users improve their writing with an AI assistant, raises 200 million at a 13 billion valuation. Man, those guys grew fast.
It's incredible.
That's not an old company. And what I find interesting about it, I wonder if anyone else shares my concern that Grammarly, which makes it easy for people to write, really poorly written, sentences, and then Grammarly says, here, let's fix this for you because you sound like, you don't speak the English properly. And is that actually going to help people learn to write better? Or is it actually going to be a crutch and they're just going to be like, oh, screw it, I'll just use Grammarly? And it's similar to what a calculator has done or what a smartphone has done to our ability to remember phone numbers.
In
You
general,
forget the details. Like when I spell with iPhones, it automatically fill the rest of you for you. So when you're really writing hands, you forget like how many L's, how many E's, how many A's there. So yeah,
Yeah,
just like
I'm not talking
calculator.
spell checking. I'm talking like proper grammar.
But there is app like already existing that to help you correct your grammar in apps. There's an app. I'm not sure. Maybe you want to use it, so you never know it exists. So we
Tyler,
have
you
that.
I
brought
think
up a funny point. I remember back in the day when there were Rolodexes, right, in the offices, and I used to literally have memorized every single phone number and all my contacts, and it was a funny thing in the office. It's like, ask Netta, she'll remember. And I can't remember anything anymore. And then, we have technology helping us in some, obviously in all these, in all these forms, but in some ways I keep looking at myself and I'm like, wonder if I'm dumbing myself down. The more I'm entering the world of technology, the more like my brain is just going in different directions. I can't remember things like I used to. And it's not just, getting older or age related or anything, but it's a muscle that we're not using. I mean, there's so many other areas of our brains and muscles that we're not using anymore. And I wish we were. You brought up the whole, memorizing a telephone number. So
Yeah, I'm pretty confident this is going to lower the average person's ability to construct proper grammatic sentences. So,
dumbing us down even more.
it will cripple creativity. I mean, creative writing will take a hit.
well, soon
But
they're
you
going
know,
to do. Soon the whole creative writing will be algorithmic, anyways. Sorry to whoever I interrupted.
this is Shaheen. I think the whole thing is kind of wasted because people aren't going to be reading them. It's going to be our robots. So
Yeah,
who cares what robots speak to each other as?
yeah,
Could be bad code.
yeah. So the next one is Google will begin paying the AFP, Agence France Presse, which is kind of like the BBC of France, and it even kind of expands beyond. It covers a lot of Europe. It's a massive player internationally in French media. It's kind of like Reuters of Europe in a way for the non-Europeans in the room. It's very important. It's super neutral. They've got people all over the world. They're just try to be like Reuters. They just report the facts. And so Google will begin paying AFP for news content in Europe as part of a 5-year partnership. The first with a news agency under the 2019 EU directive. Under the agreement with Google, AFP will also offer fact-checking training on several continents. Very cool. Interestingly, Google, the only other person covering this is Reuters. Reuters says Google signs 5-year deal to pay for news from AFP. Next one, Um,
Yeah, Tyler, just a
yeah.
question.
Mhm.
Is there a way to ensure independence so that, Google is not gonna try to get, just favorable coverage and things like that? Like, I mean, everybody says that
Mm,
there is absolutely no evidence when Bezos and, Washington Post after he bought it, and everyone still thinks that they are really independent and he has no interference. That's at least what I am reading. So, is there a way also to ensure Google is not, gonna co-opt them or something like that?
good question. I don't think it. I think AFP is beyond reproach, honestly. Um, Ribbon Health. No, no. Next
Hey,
one.
wait, Tyler, can I
Mhm.
back up on two of
Sure.
these?
Go ahead.
One is Grammarly. Grammarly's they're an umbrella, so they have a bunch of different apps and uh, services out there. So they're actually not, I think, dumbing people down. They're trying to bring people current and keep people current on grammar, which I think is great. They do. She does a great job on her focus is teaching the grammar that people are using, and they actually have several different 15 different apps under that, and then to double back on the media and the Facebook and um, uh, the not quote jihad that you're talking about earlier, but the different ones going at the media going after the different companies, and it was I'm going to look this up right now. It is Balaji Srinivasan, who
Yes.
who speaks on this. So he had this similar statement, and he was saying that to what you were saying earlier, that the media going after people in the US now, that they are taking the place of government, that they go after people and can shoot people down. So to your point on the then go after Facebook right now, he was analogizing that to they're taking out Travis at Uber. So kind of going on that whole, like, they are targeting people that challenge the media versus other countries where we do it via government regulation. So just another interesting theme there.
Jennifer, I just want to pick up on the Grammarly piece because I think that's such an important point. I mean, I remember back last century when I was in high school, my sophomore year, my 10th grade teacher, I cringed when I saw he was going to be my teacher because he had a reputation where we had to write book reports, 10-page book reports every other week. And then the Friday for which we didn't have a book report, we had to diagram sentences. And I am quite confident that I think it was Bibi that had mentioned to Tyler that, oh, well, you wouldn't know about it because, basically inferring because he's a native English speaker. But back in the day, even for native English speakers in the United States, diagramming sentences, learning the structure of the English language was part of the curriculum. So I want to underscore what you said earlier about, how Grammarly could be used to actually help ensure that people are using English properly, whether or not they happen to be a native English speaker.
I don't know, Keisha, but I'm
So,
going to back you up on that. My cousins, if I did anything incorrectly in the sentence structure, um, would call me out on that so quickly, and I kind of pride myself on being very good at this. So, to your point, if you hear her background, the woman who started Grammarly, um, I'm not sure if she's. Oh, she was an editor at one of the magazines. Anyways, and there's an umbrella. It's now become an umbrella. There's a bunch of short snippets, is what they do. They have a bunch of different, like, psychology and human health and a bunch of different things, and that's probably what that empire's getting to. And then Tyler, if you listen to what's his name that I just mentioned, the A16Z partner, he just did a 4-hour interview with Tim Ferriss on all of the digital economy and all of the power players, and our country being media run and run by the because actually I was very skeptical of your earlier harshness on the Wall Street Journal calling out Facebook, but he made some really good points to back that up. So, which play into this current scenario as well.
Okay.
So I think I quickly want to weigh in on that for Grammarly. I think it's a great disservice for anyone who is using Grammarly not to have a good understanding of the English language, because several times when I use Grammarly, it's good for correcting typos, spellings, and so on. But if you do not have like a good understanding of how to what your grammar should be like, where your comma is. A simple comma could change everything, the meaning of your sentence or whatever you're writing. So and Grammarly doesn't really actually say your mind, because you can like put a comma and the whole sentence changes. So basically, for you to use Grammarly very well and get your communicate to the person you're writing properly, you still need some level of understanding the English language, which you have to do yourself. There's still a level of hard work or some effort you need to put in to ensure that Grammarly eventually helps you. So I still see that whichever way, children are still going to need the English or learn English properly to be able to use Grammarly so well.
Next up, a social network, basically a LinkedIn for the healthcare industry called H1, has raised $100 million. LinkedIn for doctors sounds like a great idea, and everyone in the medical industry. The All Trails, an app with 40 million downloads and 1 million paid subscribers, that provides resources for hikers, bikers, and climbers, raises $150 million. And Baidu, which is the search engine in China, has revenue of $5 billion, up 13% year over year. And Consensus, which develops and invests in projects built on Ethereum, raises $200 million at a $3.2 billion valuation from HSBC, going big into Ethereum. $200 million. A company called NIM Technologies, NYM, provides network-level privacy through its blockchain-based MixNet, raises $13 million by Andreessen Horowitz. And Reuters does a profile on Metakoven, the person who bought the $69 million Beeple NFT, as customers and investors in his company say they have lost millions of dollars. Yep. And Singapore, which is often portrayed as an aspiring techno-utopia, is edging closer to a surveillance state amid a nationwide move towards constant vigilance. That's how an outsider would see it. And this dude is an outsider. And Tel Aviv-based Overwolf, a modding service for game developers, raises $75 million from Andreessen Horowitz. Bloomberg says they have sources that the SEC is scrutinizing BlockFi's high interest rates for lending out crypto. Texas, New Jersey, and other states are already investigating BlockFi. Netlify, which offers a cloud service for automating web development projects, raises $105 million at a $2 billion valuation. And Bloomberg says they have analysis that Pakistan-based startups have raised $300 million in 2021, more than the 6 previous years combined. And the Wall Street Journal says they have sources that Republican FTC commissioners and officials feel excluded under the current leadership of Lina Khan. Lina Khan rejected the claims from these Republican FTC commissioners and officials in an agency-wide memo, which, that's a great way to build a great team there, is to tell those team members who say that they feel excluded, no, you don't, you're wrong. We're running a great operation here. And Place, a startup called Place, which offers tools for real estate agents, covering accounting, hiring, ads, and more, raises $100 million by Goldman Sachs. And and one of the 2 other big ones, Amazon tells UK customers it won't accept Visa credit cards in the UK after January 19th, citing high transaction fees.
By the way, if you read into one of the other stories, I mean, I don't know if there's many stories on an Amazon Visa card, One of the stories I just read tonight says that Amazon said they still will accept the Visa card, but they're going to offer money to people to switch, I guess, whatever card you have on file to something other than Visa, but they're not going to turn, if you insist on using Visa, they're not going to like turn down the sale. So the story, there may be more to the story.
And there's also the Miramax suing Quentin Tarantino over copyright infringement for selling NFTs based on Pulp Fiction screenplay excerpts. Miramax says it owns the screenplay. And then LA's iconic Staples Center renamed Crypto.com Arena. And Cheryl, I think that's the end of our articles. Now we get into the tweets. Okay, do some of the tweets here.
Yes.
Anyone have a good tweet they want to share right off the top? No? Going once? Going twice?
Oh,
I'll,
Tyler,
I'll,
yesterday I tweeted one article about Instagram. It says in the future, it's gonna ask the new account register to have a selfie to prove that it's a human being to decrease the bot account. So that means you have to take like 180 degrees of your head turning around and then send that selfie up to the Instagram. And then I think uh, what's made interesting because you have to leave your video there. So they said they are gonna destroy this file after 1 month. But yeah, let's see how it's gonna to be. I think it's a new way, but at the same time, the privacy issue may be something to discuss.
I thought it was worth noting. If I can jump in, there was a crypto story here in Sweden about a municipality in the southern Sweden that now wants to invest in crypto, and it's interesting because there is conflicting things between the regulators some want to crack down, and now you have others municipalities that want to invest.
Yeah, I saw that one. I have it in my list of tweets. Let's do where is it? Do you have more detail on that?
It's in Skåne in southern
Okay.
Sweden.
Yeah, near Malmö and near just across the bridge from Copenhagen. Yeah, it's from Reddit. It was a popular Reddit article on Reddit. It's from Swedish Radio, which is a very good outlet. And it says, Straffenstorp's municipality, we will be able to buy Bitcoin. The leading politicians want the municipality to be able to invest in cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin. The municipal board's working committee will decide on an investigation on Tuesday, quote, a strategy not to put all the eggs in the same basket, says the politician who is the chairman of the municipal board. Okay. Well, let's hope he doesn't. Let's hope he keeps going up and not down. He'll have a lot to answer for. There's a whole bunch of tweets here. I got this one from Saudamini from CNET that Elon Musk is aiming to have a dozen Starship launches next year. The SpaceX founder hopes to start sending real payloads to space in 2023. And Reuters reporting about Metacoven. We covered that one. It says he represents a new generation of investors, the cryptocurrency kings who have created fortunes out of sight from financial regulators. Many investors have lost money. And then Ken, you have this one about Nextdoor.
Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of tweeted it. I didn't read all the detail. And the only reason I tweeted it is because I recognize name of the person who wrote the article. When I lived in LA, she was a writer for the Los Angeles Times. So I guess now she's a podcaster, or she's got some sort of radio show. So that was something that she wrote. And this article is something she wrote about something that was supposed to be a friendlier version of Facebook or something. I don't know this company at all. Maybe other people on this, on the platform here know more about it than I do. I only recognize the person who wrote it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see here. It says that the social network Nextdoor was supposed to encourage kindness amongst neighbors. Oh, how naive. This is the problem with entrepreneurs, is we think our platforms are going to, bring the kittens and the puppies together and all of that. And in reality, it's the opposite. I'm sure Nextdoor fantasized about that their platform would be used to cultivate kindness in the neighborhood. In reality, it's going to do exactly the opposite. It's going to be used for problems and conflict. That's just the nature of social platforms. So, anyway, the next one is the fourth wave of COVID hitting Germany with full force, Merkel warns. Belgium mandates working from home. A whole lot of uh, a whole lot of Delta coming into Europe, as I warned would happen. It's just it took a while for the days to get shorter, but now that the what do we call the time zone change, the seasonal clocks have changed, daylight savings have changed, and now people are spending a lot more time indoors, and that's where COVID loves to do its thing. Yes,
Hey,
Greg?
Tyler, didn't they also say that it might be a cause from the flare up in Austria too? Because Austria is seeing some pretty sizable numbers.
Yeah, Austria, Germany,
Yeah,
Netherlands,
the
Belgium.
Munich area,
Yeah,
which has a lower rate of vaccination too in Germany.
they. I mean, it's interesting. Even in Denmark, it's getting a lot of high cases. It's the highest cases they've ever had, if I read the graph correctly. And I think it's Sweden. Very interestingly, is not yet seeing a spike in cases.
Yeah, I
And
think it's super interesting.
super
And
crazy interesting. Craig, let's debate this for a second. My guess is that it's because the vaccines, as we know, have a expiration. Even if you've been double vaccinated, after 6-7 months you need to get a booster. However, if you got COVID organically, for lack of a better word, then that might you have a better resistance to the virus because you actually had the virus, right? So my guess, and it's totally a guess, is that because Sweden, everyone I know in Sweden got COVID, some people multiple
Really?
times. Yeah, so I'm
Herd
wondering
immunity.
if that's why we're not seeing as much of it in Sweden.
I can't claim to know why. I have not gotten COVID. I've gotten three shots. Um, I think that there is a higher level of vaccination, and certainly there is a number of people who got COVID, and maybe they have some resistance, but I can't claim to know why. Um, I know the authority, Anders Tegnell, this controversial guy who sort of ran our health program here, he sort of claimed, his main claim was, over time, everything is going to even out among all countries. So that would sort of indicate that it's going to come here. To Germany, what's interesting there for me is a country that is, such a culture of a system and rules and everybody following those rules. And then you have 30% of the population that really do not want to get vaccinated and all these protests.
Mm-hmm. And then we've got a bunch of Norwegian friends in the audience. I noticed there's Daniel Yara and Daniel Sund Hansen and our dear friend Ellen. And Norway's been very quiet about all of this, but Norway's been doing such looking back over since the beginning. you would have a hard time finding somewhere that did better than Norway during COVID, honestly, looking where we're at today and where we've been and looking at where the data is at the moment. So kudos, I'm going to break out the clap for Norway, who not only has done a fantastic job, but has done it without even entering the shitstorm of debate, without even flexing, without even trying to, you know. And for those who don't know, that is actually one of the beautiful appeals of Norway. The whole country is fantastic and magical and beautiful, and they just keep their mouth closed and they don't care to inform the rest of the world that they figured out how to do things. So it doesn't surprise me that they're not lecturing people on COVID either. So next up is a tweet, which is a video of how AI and holograms and AR will work in medicine with the HoloLens from Microsoft, and it just shows a bunch of doctors doing a bunch of kidney holographic x-rays in a very cool way. I just tweeted it to the Tech News Twitter account. Thank you to Pam for sending in that one. Pam also sent in this next one, which is potentially fantastic news, that a new charging station cable could fully recharge an electric vehicle in under 5 minutes. The charging cable can handle 4 times as much current, potentially charging a vehicle in under 5 minutes. That would be amazing. That works as advertised. And then Shirok sends in a really interesting headline that the surface of the moon has enough oxygen to sustain 8 billion people for 100,000 years. Alongside advances in space exploration, we've recently seen much time and money invested into tech that could allow effective space resource utilization. And at the forefront of these efforts has been a laser-sharp focus on finding the best way to produce oxygen on the moon. In October, the Australian Space Agency and NASA signed a deal to send an Australian-made rover to the moon with the goal to collect lunar rocks that could ultimately provide breathable oxygen on the moon. Although the moon doesn't have an atmosphere, it's very thin and composed mostly of hydrogen, neon, and argon. It's not the sort of gaseous mixture that could sustain oxygen-dependent mammals such as humans. Having said that, there is actually plenty of oxygen on the moon. It just isn't in a gaseous form. Instead, it's trapped inside regolith, the layer of rock and fine dust that covers the moon's surface. If we could extract oxygen from regolith, would it be enough to support human life on the moon? And the conclusion from this article is that it could support 8 billion people for 100,000 years.
I just got this image that one day in the future, whoever says I'm still living on Earth is going to be like living in the projects.
That could be the case if Elon gets all the billionaires up to Mars.
I'll
And
still be in Earth.
okay, yeah, Thailand's not so bad. It says the headline from CNET says I bought half kilowatt of solar energy for $9 in under 10 minutes. Like me, you might be able to buy solar energy from your utility, but $9 for a half kilowatt is crazy expensive, by the way. Solar panel, yeah, it took me 10 minutes and cost me $9 to buy solar energy. Utilities often offer green power pricing programs in which their customers can pay a bit of a premium to buy renewable energy. And the article is essentially about that, how you can contact power providers in your area and ask if they sell solar power, and you can buy that. But I would not be, as much as I love the environment, I mean, I've converted my entire 20 beach houses into solar energy, but I would not be paying $9 for half a kilowatt for those who don't run their entire homes on solar and batteries like I do. A kilowatt is basically what will run an air conditioner for an hour. So, or any large appliance like a water heater. 1 kilowatt is 1,000 watts in 1 hour. So that's a lot of light bulbs to run 1,000 watts for an hour, or but light bulbs don't use a lot of electricity, nor do TVs. The things that use a lot of electricity are things that involve heating and cooling. So that's why I said an air conditioner that involves cooling, or any kind of heater like a hot water heater, those involve tons of energy. Changing the temperature of matter like water involves tons of energy. So a kilowatt is a decent amount of power, but doesn't go far in terms of heating or cooling. So $9 for a half kilowatt, that's $18 to run an air conditioner for an hour. That's a bit pricey. You're better off just building your own solar system at that point. You can go to IKEA, by the way. IKEA sells like a $4,000, $5,000 home solar system that's easily installable, and hook you up with a converter, and you're good to go. I think that would be a much better route. I highly encourage it. And the next one is from Saudamini, that Amazon Alexa competes with Siri, Apple Siri, and Google Assistant, now lets you play something on Netflix. Netflix has refined a one-button solution that picks something based on your tastes and starts playing it right away. So you can just say, hey, Alexa, play something on Netflix, and it will now play something on Netflix. Here comes the future. The next is also about SpaceX, that Elon Musk. SpaceX CEO Elon Musk is in talks with Brazilian officials on a deal for Starlink, the satellite internet, to provide satellite internet in the Amazon rainforest. And that would be amazing. Although potentially dystopian. Because I can imagine recreating the movie Avatar in the rainforest with with some fast Wi-Fi. You could open up some really interesting tropical, type things.
Where's the YouTubers go there to broadcast it?
Exactly. You got the van
What is the use
lifers
case?
heading that way.
What is the use case? Drones
The
and
use case
such?
is YouTube van lifers living in the Amazonian rainforest.
Well, by the way, there's another risk. Also, if you have better internet access there, it might encourage, them to some people to cut down, more of the rainforest to have people, and that creates its own climate problem.
If they're busy on Facebook, they're not going to have time to cut trees.
Well, no, they won't be able to get on Facebook unless they cut the trees, because one of the kind of issues with Starlink is you need direct line of sight to the sky.
Right.
So we'll see how this plays out.
Tyler,
Yes.
did you put Cheryl in the audience?
No, she actually just texted me. She accidentally moved herself to the audience, so she needs Tyler to move her back up.
Okay, let's see. Here we go, and there's Johan.
Well, I
Okay.
didn't feel she was misbehaving in any way.
I did a silly thing. Thank you, Ellen.
That was
You
brilliant,
see,
Tyler.
yeah,
That was a brilliant copy.
someone from Norway doesn't speak, but once you speak, impactful. Thank you, Ellen.
Welcome back, Cheryl.
I got your back, Cheryl.
Thank you. Yeah,
So,
sorry, I made a fool out of myself.
Hazukashi, na?
Never.
Takashi, can you give me the green bean so I can help you again?
This
It's omoshiroi na. The
ごめんね。
what we're saying in Japanese is a very important Japanese concept. Hazukashi means you're embarrassed, and it's a very strong concept in Japanese. And
I did my own sweet side. I jumped down myself.
yeah, that's a perfect
blushing.
that's a perfect
Train track,
example of Hazukashi right there. And then
Yeah.
and then somebody else said omoshiroi, which is like kind of funny, cute, interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
Sorry,
technically means
ごめんね。
interesting, but it's interesting isn't the right definition. It's more like it's interesting,
Funny or
but in a
funny.
cute way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So next up is a punk band from Pittsburgh has signed a letter protesting the use of Amazon's palm recognition technology at concerts. The devices, which are being launched at Red Rocks Amphitheater, which we covered about 2 or 3 months ago. You remember this, where Amazon announced this partnership for one of America's most beautiful musical venues, the Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado, was going to start using the Amazon palm reading to authenticate your ticket when you enter. And now this Pittsburgh punk band is protesting the use of palm reading technologies at concerts. The
God
letter,
bless
which
them.
the letter, which has been endorsed by more than 200 artists, includes Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine, Kathleen Hanna of Bikini Kill, and a bunch of bands you've never heard of, calls for a ban on the use of biometric technology, citing privacy concerns. Here's the quote: "For many of us, concerts and live events are some of the most memorable and enjoyable experiences of our lives. The spread of biometric surveillance tools like palm scans and facial recognition now threatens to destroy that, transforming these spaces into hotspots for U.S. immigration and customs enforcement, raids, false arrests, police harassment, and stolen identities."
What's the reason the venues want to do that, to prevent scalping? I mean, it's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, I think that would be a genius reduction in false ticket, counterfeit tickets and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And the letter also says it's simply a matter of time before we hear of a case of palm scans misidentifying people in the ways that facial recognition has, often with violent and life-altering consequences. But most concerning of all is the fact that this new technology will make the data of thousands of people vulnerable to ongoing government tracking and abuse and malicious hackers. It means that we've gone full Orwellian, says the front man of the punk band. Your biometrics are everything, and as soon as you give your biometrics away, the possibility for your identity to be stolen or for anybody to take control of your life in some way, that door is open. For me, music and music venues should be more community-based. It shouldn't be a place where the police could potentially be harassing people because they're checking people's biometrics and there's a report back of the police. As far as the Big Brother aspect of it, whether it's ICE raids, false arrests, police coming to look for people, nobody ever thinks it's going to start out that way. There's a fine line to me between asking for an ID and checking to make sure somebody is of age versus actually having somebody's physical imprint and the potential of abusing that. Along with the artists, the protest was initiated by advocacy group called Fight for the Future and 30 other groups, including United We Dream and Access Now. Here's the quote: "Corporations have tried to make this tech sound harmless, but let's be clear, Amazon has vested interest in getting millions of people to give up their palm scans. The palm scanning scheme at Red Rocks Amphitheater is simply priming people for the day when submitting iris scans, fingerprint scans, and face scans everywhere becomes totally normalized."
So, Tyler, I just took a look at that article in Red Rocks. It's actually maybe worse than we're describing it here, because it wasn't the venue. I mean, it was the venue, but the company that's actually bringing that technology to them is AEG, which, as you know, is the second largest, concert promoter and venue operator, in the
Mhm.
United States. And
Mhm.
so, if this is a trial and AEG wants to roll this out to the rubber facilities, this is going to be a very big issue.
Yeah, it means that every music concert you go to, or an event at a large venue, you'll have to do palm scanning. And
Everyone, 'cause I mean, they're second to Live Nation. I mean, Live Nation would have
right,
to follow them into it, but yeah.
right. So this is the debate. Do we want a world of, is this a net positive or net negative for societies? And we could ask, in the context of America for the time being, we asked it about facial recognition yesterday. And they're kind of one and the same. I mean, you're going to have both. You're going to have whole lots of supermarkets are going to have, and there a whole lot of companies are going to have facial recognition. I mean, tons.
I wonder if AEG is doing this to try to distinguish themselves from Live Nation. Live Nation owns Ticketmaster. Okay, so you very often, sometimes you could even end up with there are some events which are AEG, but they use Ticketmaster. But AEG's got its own ticketing thing called AXS, which is doesn't have anywhere near the market share of Ticketmaster. And so I wonder if they're doing this because they think, or they're trying to make it a case to venues that it's a value add somehow. But if it deters people from going, that's going to be a net negative.
Yeah, but isn't it
AEG, oh, sorry, I was just going to say they also, I was just chiming in with Ken, AEG also own a lot of venues.
right? A lot of the
I
big
know.
arenas, yeah,
Well,
and the
and and mostly they operate them. They own them, and it's like Live Nation. They operate a lot of venues on behalf of the owners, is as opposed to necessarily even owning them, outright. Particularly because AEG bought another company, which I forgot the name of right now, SBE. They bought another company called SBE a couple of years
Yeah,
ago, which actually operates a lot of the venues that are owned by municipalities. The municipalities build them, and then they went to SBE to operate them and to fill them, and then AEG ended up owning that company. Yeah.
exactly. And as you say, yes, they are a management company often for the venues, sort of like the Marriotts and Ritz-Carltons operate. But unlike Live Nation, that only in within citation hire the venues. Very dominated by those two, of course, entire market.
okay. So next up, the United States, according to South China Morning Post, the United States asks China to release oil reserves as part of economic cooperation. The Biden administration is under growing pressure to consider releasing strategic oil reserves after a recent surge in U.S. inflation. London-based digital identity provider Yoti enters into a 2-year partnership with Galaxy, an end-to-end email encryption platform, so you can prove your identity on an email. That's pretty freaking clever. And the Waterloo, what's that? Okay, hold on. Cambridge. Okay, next up is this one from Saudamini. India's most popular password is password, which is the same as in Japan. In India, the most popular password is password and not 123456, as has been widely speculated. Interestingly, Japan is the only other country that has password as their main password. Where in the US it shifts between password and 123456. And by 2026, new cars must have anti-drunk driving technology. Congress will mandate tech in new cars by 2026 to stop drunk driving. And the dog phone is back in the news. Give the dog a phone instead of give the dog a bone. What a clever headline. Device could ease pain for lonely dogs. Does your Chihuahua have a chin wag, or the Yorkie want to yak, the Greyhound needs to gossip, or the Corgi loves to chat? It's starting to sound like a Dr. Seuss book here, but dog phones, they're coming. I look forward to have my meetings interrupted by calls from dogs. This next headline says that the retail sector in the UK faces one cyber attack every 8 days. They experienced 44 cyber attacks in the past year, with one attack happening every 8 days.
44 reported, 44 that we know about.
Yeah, it's more likely 10x that, yeah.
Exactly.
Investors offer OpenSea. OpenSea is one of the main platforms for buying and selling of NFTs, and investors offer them a 10 billion valuation in a new fundraising. That's incredible, unbelievable. I'm really 10 billion for OpenSea. My goodness.
Hey, Tyler, if I could just for a second go back, because I on that DUI thing, which I didn't know existed in that bill. I mean, if you could imagine all the debates about privacies and choice with vaccines here, people are going to go absolutely wild about the big brother issues involved with the technology to monitor driver behavior, within your own car. I mean, the political calculus on this is probably not very good.
Okay. Let's see. Next one up. Well, I was gonna on that continuing point about NFTs. One of the more interesting NFT projects at the moment is this whole bunch of people coming together to buy the United States Constitution, which two of our friends, Dr. Francine Hardaway and Jeremiah Ouyang, are both part of this DAO. Maybe others in the audience or stage are as well. And they've now raised $27 million on the eve of the Sotheby's auction of this original copy of the U.S. Constitution. But will it be enough? We will find out very soon. And what will be the next big DAO NFT fundraising or crypto fundraising? It will be very interesting to see. And how much would it take to convince Donald Trump not to run again? Is the question that I would that I think I and many others would like to know. Could we raise $1 billion?
That's easy. You just need to get fast food establishments to refuse to deliver to the White House.
Ah, clever. Sanctions, fast food sanctions. So the next one is that China sees the metaverse as the next internet battleground, where one of the party leaders had a meeting with a bunch of geeks and was trying to emphasize just how big of a shift this is going to be in terms of commerce. And that's why it's interesting to them. It's not just about people talking in chat rooms. It's a whole lot of commerce in the future is going to happen in VR, and China wants to be part of that commerce. But they have a separate internet. So how are they going to participate in this commerce is a great question. And here's the article.
Tyler, just a quick one on the metaverse. Hey, observation. I think as a term, it's probably going to serve as a good way for people who don't know anything about any of these topics that we talk about, like, AR, VR, social commerce, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be like a doorway for people to kind of understand, like, a package of things would be, you just made me think of, because a lot of people are now hearing this now, whereas they wouldn't have heard those other terms before, I think.
The first ever interior Earth mineral has been discovered on Earth's surface. A new mineral from Earth's lower mantle surfaced as a diamond inclusion. New mineral from Earth's lower mantle. Calcium silicate perovskite. The interior Earth mineral is the most geochemically important phase in lower mantle. It concentrates elements that are incompatible in the upper mantle, including the heat-generating elements thorium and uranium, which have half-lives longer than the Earth's geological history. The mineral showed up as an infinitesimal small dark specks in a diamond unearthed from an African mine in the 1980s. Now, geochemists have discovered this mineral entrapped in a diamond on the surface of the Earth. This is the first time the lower mantle minerals have ever been observed in nature. The mineral usually falls apart before reaching the Earth's surface, unable to retain its structure outside of the high-pressure environment. In this case, the diamond's incredible strength preserved the mineral. According to scientists, the interior Earth mineral traveled up to the surface from 410 miles deep within the Earth's lower mantle. The diamond, which the mineral found, arrived on the surface decades ago in Botswana via the Orapa mine, the world's largest diamond mine by area. In 1987, the mineralogist at the California Institute of Technology in Pasadena bought this diamond. Recently, geochemists at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas got their hands on the diamond by using a new suite of scientific tools. They analyzed the interior structure of the diamond. They found a new crystalline compound that they named David
Mauite.
David Mauite. What's the pun there? Oh, Dave Mao. It's been named
It's named after a famous geologist.
Dave Mao, an experimental geophysicist who developed many techniques that people use today. Okay. So that's an expensive, imperfect diamond. And then DoorDash begins national shipping. It's no longer just for local deliveries. It's now competing with UPS and FedEx and others. DoorDash. Their network has reached across the U.S. And apparently, Brendan Fraser, the actor, the American actor, became a TikTok obsession and sparked the Renaissance. Creators explain why TikTok has become obsessed with an actor who has largely been absent from the public eye for a decade. Okay. Bill Gates says COVID deaths may drop to flu levels by mid-2022. That would be great news. And
But
Google...
remember, deaths are only part of the story. There's morbidity that could be a significant burden if this keeps going. It
not to
already is a
mention,
burden.
not to mention the loss of IQ. It's a very, which, as I understand, it was reportedly a very real thing. People
In
have...
It
severe
definitely.
cases, half a standard deviation. Yeah.
I was just adding that the post-COVID clinic that I'm, or the whole, it's become an entire community from the Karolinska Institute here, that it is frightening to see, even in myself, even though things are getting a lot better. But just as you say, there's so many effects to people who've even had, just as myself, a light case of COVID, and young people. That's really, they fear it being an avalanche. So it's like you say, there's such a big picture around it, and also people who are very severe um, post symptoms that are, even though they are then of course still alive, thankfully, but there's a lot, as you were saying, it's not only, one doesn't want to say only dying, but you know what I mean. Just adding that. Can I just take the opportunities to say, did you cover that Sweden has just decided that to have the COVID passports for any gatherings over 100 people from
We
December
did
1st?
we
You
did
did that?
when we did that well, when we met
Oh,
in our
okay.
last gathering, which was 12
Ah, yeah,
hours ago, but
yeah,
it's worth mentioning today.
yes. Because now it looks like it's going through. Then yesterday it was a suggestion, but now it looks like they've set it.
And so how will that be enforced, do you think?
That's a good question, but they will have. They notice now that there's an enormous. Everyone is downloading, since we have in Sweden we have a digital site for anything within healthcare. So even people who don't realize it, you have your whole journal, everything. You just log in with our mobile bank IDs and bank IDs that we all have in a digital format. So that part has been very easy, and then you just as you do with a COVID passport for traveling, you just download it to your phone. So apparently half of Sweden is doing that right now, because a lot of people have events they're going to from December 1st. Lucky
Mhm.
ours ends on November 30th, right, Tyler?
Yeah, mine's on the 29th. Yeah, I'm incredibly
Yeah.
relieved about that.
But I think it's such a good strategy given the fact, particularly in countries where Christmas is um, celebrated holiday beyond just kind of buying gifts for friends, but you have large gatherings of colleagues and family coming together, and potluck parties where people are bringing and sharing meals. I think it's so smart for them to do that. I've been back channeling with Constanza in the audience because she had some points around other countries in Europe, and maybe other people are already familiar with this tool, but Google News has an infographic where you can set the time parameter, and it gives you a global map with kind of heat circles in terms of where the virus has really kind of taken off during that time frame. And I guess because I'm such a visual person, I've been geeking out on that, by drilling down. But it's really quite apparent, where these spikes are occurring globally, and it's sad, but I think it's interesting from a data standpoint. It seems as though they aggregate the cases from different news sources to create this dynamic infographic in case people are interested.
Yeah, I've
It's
nerded out on that as well, and also being pinged. I'm not even sure if that's from the Google one or the Sweden one. That if you get a notification if you are close to any such area or have been close to recently, if you opt in, obviously.
And I've just noticed that they have two buttons. Well, they have a few buttons, but one is cases and the other is vaccines. So you can see the number of doses given by country. I mean, you can zoom in, zoom out, and then another toggle is for cases. So I think that whether people want to look to see where the cases are spiking and or where people are getting vaccinated. I think it's really interesting from a visual data standpoint.
Just a question though. I was just watching the news this morning, and Ireland is also trying to have some kind of lockdowns in the bars and things like that. But the very interesting fact for me, and really, really heartbreaking part of it, is they have like over 90% vaccination rate. Isn't that like herd immunity that, Dr. Fauci and others have been saying that would be the optimal to kind of get rid of the COVID? If they have over 90% vaccination rate and they still are experiencing a spike, what is it going to take to kind
But
but
of get
but
this
which
pandemic under
yeah, but which
control?
vaccine? Because, like, for example, AstraZeneca, which has been used a lot in Europe, is not as effective against Delta apparently as the mRNA vaccines. So it depends on which vaccine.
and I was also just going to add that it's very much the uh, most, if you follow any of the research or the ones the people you're referring to who are working on this, that they are not, even with so-called herd immunity, it is not, no one thinks you're going to get rid of it. It is, and this is already the case, that the cases now are much milder, so the vaccine is of course having huge effect in that. But complete herd immunity is, I shouldn't say a myth, but it's very much getting down the severity of COVID, just like with any influenza vaccine, that you can still get it, but you get a milder case. So it's not only lowering the death rate, but also the severe complex cases. If I understand, I'm quoting the whole family who work on this, not myself being a medical professional at all.
Yeah,
To me,
if
to
we,
me is just, I don't mean like to get rid of the disease, but to just get it under control, like any other, like the flu or something else that we work with and we live with. Because, like you said, if it gets under control of the days rate and even the severity rate, then at least we as a society we get to learn how to live with it, so that economies can recover, and business travels and other things can get to as normal as we can get. But the way it is, like, Ireland is kind of still looking down and stopping bars, and even France and Germany and others. So if this is it going to be the new normal if the 90% vaccination rate is not even good enough to get to the new normal? That's
And
the
and
the
also,
concern for me.
I agree with that, but what they would say now would be that nobody knows. This is still, even though this type of virus, it's not even 20 years since any type of SARS-CoV, and so it doesn't matter if you're the best researcher on earth. They are still humans. We're still living in our times. It's just like knowing the post effects. But I agree with you that it would be interesting also that, do we need to shut down each time if the cases are milder? Should that would be an interesting discussion, I feel, moving
so
forward.
part of it is shutting down for long enough. It's kind of like they're calibrating to make this go on forever rather than calibrating to reduce transmission so that you don't have to shut down as frequently. And of course, that goes along with high quality masks, better ventilation, better surveillance and testing, tracing, and isolating. And it's just, you have to get for the latter two things. to work, you have to get it down to a low enough level. And that, they say, it's low enough. Okay, we can get back to business. And that's what's been getting us every time.
Oh, I just pinned an article on top. It's released 4 hours ago from Singapore. So through a combination of natural immunity, vaccine immunity, and new oral treatments, the death and disease rates for COVID-19 are coming down dramatically. And by summer 2022, should be on par with or even lower than the average levels of seasonal flu, said Bill Gates on Thursday. So once this happens, it is likely that economic activity will resume fully, notwithstanding some remaining hotspots. But Mr. Gates, the co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation at the Bloomberg New Economic Forum in Singapore. So it's just today that he mentioned that. I think we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel in half a year's time.
Google launches Bot in a Box to nudge along conversational AI. The new feature from Google Cloud makes it easier for businesses to launch chatbots using existing customer FAQs. And AI is learning to talk back, how that's changing the customer and the employee experience. Conversational AI tech has been increasing rapidly, in part thanks to COVID. And Brian Baumgartner, best known for his role as Kevin Malone in the U.S. comedy The Office, has made more than $1 million making personalized videos for fans on the Cameo platform, BBC reporting, which might be more than he made from The Office. And this is, by the way, genius marketing. This is how platforms get popular. It's not going to have a ton of people signing up for Cameo because
Tyler, being that the office has big residuals, I'm sure he made more than $1 million.
So the point being that one of the best things any platform can do is to promote one of the most successful income earners on the platform to inspire the greed of everybody else to join the platform, which is why I was suggesting to Clubhouse and others, you would be smart to put a lot of support behind one content creator and have them make as much money as possible, and so that you could write a similar article saying creators are making $1 million a year on Clubhouse. YouTube did this very effectively. And anywho, researchers are to use AI in the hope of reducing risk to pregnant Black women. A university in Italy, experts are to work on the healthcare safety investigation branch to identify patterns in recent investigation, using AI to reduce risk to pregnant Black women. Okay. At this point, you can just use AI for anything, apparently. The robots to offer help at the Olympics by spraying mist, as these mist spraying robots roam around Beijing, because when you have mist in the air, it knocks the virus out of the air down to the ground, apparently. The disinfection robot can disinfect as much as 36 square meters in 1 minute, and the battery lasts for 5 hours. So they're planning to have these at the Wu Kesong Sports Center for the Olympics. Satoshi Nakamoto, the genius behind Bitcoin, is now the 15th wealthiest person in the world after the cryptocurrency's recent price rally. He's estimated to be worth $73 billion in Bitcoin. And a Utah company says it's revolutionized truth-telling technology. Experts are highly skeptical. The Utah company claims it has discovered a way to tell if a person is lying by tracking their eye movements, but incredibly accurately. And the Washington Post has finally written an article about TikTok. And here it is. The headline says, The Kyle Rittenhouse trial is being dissected on TikTok. There you go, Washington Post. That's the way to cover TikTok. You roll in some Kyle Rittenhouse there. The Kyle Rittenhouse trial is being dissected on TikTok. The latest TikTok trend is watching a homicide trial. Oh, is that really the latest trend on TikTok? Are we sure that's the latest trend on TikTok? Okay, and then last but not least, because Sarah and I have a phone call in 3 minutes, Roblox voice chat checks IDs. Roblox recently rolled out voice chat, and they want to protect the kids. And it says Roblox voice chat checks ID to keep kids safe, but slurs and sex sounds slip through. Roblox opened up its hotly anticipated voice chat feature to most players this week, but despite an ID requirement, it's proven difficult to police because people can make sexual sounds. The algorithms are having trouble detecting, apparently. Well, that's your update for today, November 18th. And we will join again in just 6 hours. So hopefully you will join us for that, and we will see you. Oh, and before I forget, it appears that we will quite certainly be moving tech news around the world to Twitter Spaces, I believe starting December 1st. So this might be the first of many announcements, and I have more to share about that, which only one person on stage knows about, but it's exciting news. But hopefully I have some exciting news to share with everybody soon. But related to that, it looks like we'll be doing our daily gatherings in Twitter Spaces starting December 1st. So you might need to download the Twitter app if you don't have it. And I'll have more to share about that.
Well, Tyler, are they going to be able to have more than 11 people on stage? Because isn't there a limit right now on Twitter Spaces?
That's one of the issues. I actually have a call with Twitter, a private call with them in about later today, in about 9 hours from now, to discuss exactly that.
Ain't there a bridge that so you can use them both? I've heard that in a couple of rooms that they're running both the Green Room, Twitter Spaces, and the Clubhouse together in some rooms. It's just that they have a relay moderator that
Yes.
relaying in between them.
Yeah. Well, Heyman's been doing that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually his room. I was not going to draw him out into the light. Sorry, Heyman.
It's all right. No. We have a lot of clever
Amazing. Good
tricks
job.
for how to do that. Yeah.
Tyler, it will be a great idea if you're able to do that because we can't use Twitter.
Oh yeah. Oh, you mean in Nigeria? I forgot. That's right. Nigeria got Twitter banned.
How about LinkedIn? Tyler was trying. You tested the LinkedIn broadcast.
Yeah, we should be able to still stream to LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all of that still.
The only problem with all of this is that if, let's say, you're in Clubhouse and someone's talking in Twitter Spaces, you can't really see them.
Right.
So someone has to keep saying who's from where.
Correct. And it might be.
And we really need LS to tell that he is speaking each time.
Yes, so this is LS. But it might be the case that we're able to do a hybrid of the two somehow, so we can start experimenting with that.
Yeah, I think Pierre and Heyman knows how to do it. You can just
yes. Pierre knows it is very well updated on the scenario, and he's one of the people I've briefed on all of this, and he's excited as well. So
I can show you how to do it also. I've done it. I'm not very happy with it. Honestly, I like Clubhouse more.
Alrighty. Well, we're going to
Thanks,
pause
guys.
there.
See you in a few hours.
Okay, we'll see you in several hours. Have a wonderful Subway sandwich break, everybody.
Thanks, Tyler.
6 hours.
Bye.